With the recent Hunter rework, a lot of people are curious what pet you should run now, what talent build you should run, should it be Beast Mastery or should it be Marksman, and what runes should you run as a Hunter in Season of Discovery. So from some calculations that we'll run through later, the actual nerfs we received yesterday, or the changes, was Beast Mastery Hunters lost about 12% of your damage. Your pet itself actually lost about 28% of its damage. Literally, that's crazy, right? Well, on the flip side, Marksman Hunters with this buff actually received a buff of about 1 to 2% damage. Congratulations, that's the retuning. But before I even get into why, the math behind it and breaking everything down, just let me give you a quick, this is what you should do if you don't even want to watch the video. 99, maybe 98% of hunters should still play the Beast Mastery spec. And all you need to do to change from what was happening before to what's happening right now, I would suggest you go from using a Wind-Serpent to going to a 2.0 attack speed cat or raptor. That is literally like the change. Almost everybody should just use a cat or raptor. And if you use a cat, it will be effective next phase because you will get dash, okay? If you want to go marksman, then do go marksman. Feel free to go marksman, but only if you have fully bisque gear or very close to bisque gear and you have short kill times. Now I know that we now have more mana or less mana issues, but I would say you still want to be Beast Mastery because of just how strong pets are right now and because the runes for marksman just aren't really that great yet. So with that being said, let's look at what the real changes were that came out yesterday and actually released in game today. The first one is that Chimera Shot was buffed from doing 85% of your weapon damage up to 100% of your weapon damage. Now, when this ability launched on Season of Discovery launch, it was at 125% damage. And what the difference is, like literally what this makes the difference within a raid, is about a 1 to 2% damage buff for hunters that are marksmen or using this ability. That's because this is only between 10 and 15% of your damage as a marksman hunter. And on top of that, the increase in damage to explosive shot that just happened today as well, where explosive shot now receives 25% extra of your attack power, was a very, very minimal increase in the damage. It is actually almost not even noticeable at this level. I think this will be really nice later on, but just know explosive shot didn't actually get tuned up very much. It's not like more useful. It's still only useful in large AoE situations. Now on to the big one, the Beast Mastery rune. This one saw a huge nerf, actually. This is kind of a wildly large nerf. So the damage modifier on your pet went down from 30% to 20%. Basically, your pet is doing 10% less damage. That's a static 10% decrease in the damage that your pet does if you are running this rune. But on top of that, and what's actually a significantly larger DPS decrease, is that they also nerfed the focus regeneration that you received from this rune from an additional 80% to an additional 50%. And that means in about a 1 minute fight, instead of getting about 12 lightning breaths from a Wind-Serpent, you're now getting about 7 lightning breaths a minute. And you can see the difference in focus regeneration right here on the screen. This is before and after, and actually, if you're not seeing any focus move at all, that's because the focus regeneration you got was basically enough to instantly get a lightning breath, so you actually don't even see it on your screen sometimes. So every time there was a tick, that actually meant there was a lightning breath costing around 50 focus. So let's talk about how much of a DPS decrease that is and what are the talent builds you want to run and what are the runes. Actually, let's do that first. So the talent builds and the runes that you want to run, because I've already told you that you're most likely going away from the Wind-Serpent unless you're doing PvP. If you want to use the marksman build, this is what you will have. You can see it right now in the background. You will use efficiency for 5 points, lethal shots for 5 points, grab aim shot, then go down into improved aspect of the hawk. This again is something I would use only if I have very short kill times, something like 20 seconds to 40 seconds. Let's even say all the way up to 40 seconds. And if I have a pretty solid group, then you will use Heart of the Lion if you have to, but if you are not the only hunter in the group, if there's another hunter, use Master Marksman. Then you will use Flanking Strike, or in some situations, sniper training, it's not really that great, but kill command's not really that great either. Ideally, you're using flanking strike and you are melee weaving. Chimera shot is a rune that you'll probably run if you're running marksman, but the beast mastery rune is still actually pretty strong. It's actually really strong. Okay, so it's time to crunch the numbers using this log that's about 1 minute long just to show you an example. But trust me, I've looked at this quite a bit and things might get fine-tuned. This isn't actually statistical significance without going through like a massive amount of logs. So just know this isn't perfect numbers, but it's pretty close. Beforehand, for a lot of fights, your pet was doing 40%, around 40% of your damage. If you are not playing really well and you're not geared, that actually percentage goes up. So your pet was doing more than 40% of your damage. Now your pet is doing something around 33% of your damage, but let's look at just the pet itself. First of all, how big are the nerfs? If your pet just lost that 10% damage, this pet would go down from about 95 DPS to about 86 DPS. Just that alone. But that's only if it was just losing that, the 10% damage nerf. But the focus regeneration nerf actually makes this a lot worse. This alone brings the lightning breath from doing 2700 damage all the way down to about 1575. That's before the 10% nerf. So just get rid of all of the extra abilities your pet was going to do beforehand before we see the 10% nerf, because those were full damage abilities. And that by itself comes out to be about a 20% damage nerf. Just for Wind-Serpents alone, just losing that much focus regeneration, it's about a 20% damage nerf to your pet. Then reduce that by another 10% and your pet has lost around 28% of its damage. And in this log, that would mean I would go down from doing 233 damage per second to 206 damage per second. Literally from 233 to 206. That is a 12% DPS loss for BM hunters. And this means that pets are going from doing about 40% of your damage to 33% of your damage. So that is just how big the nerfs are. And I know it feels bad for hunters that this tuning is coming from a lot of people complaining that they couldn't beat Wind-Serpents in PvP because they were really strong in PvP. But I'm curious if everybody remembers just how powerful hunters were at level 60 in original vanilla World of Warcraft and classic era in open world PvP. They absolutely delete people, but the issue is they delete people in PvP and absolutely do dog doo-doo damage in PvE and in the raids. And this might be an issue we are gonna run into very soon. If there's a ton of class tuning that happens specifically for PvP, open world PvP, and especially at the more casual, non-skill based level, then you will see some huge nerfs to the class in PvE. Pets are still very strong and they will still be really strong at level 40, guys. So this nerf was warranted. It probably was needed, and we'll see what happens at level 40. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will keep you updated with anything that changes Season of Discovery, as well as I have a guide tomorrow that is like the one that I'm so excited about. Every class has some quality of life things that should be coming. So I broke down every quality of life rune that every class should get. So make sure to check that out tomorrow. And also Quest Stack is going to be on channel members soon. Okay. All right. Whatever. Bye. I love you. Bye.